Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin Show for your Wednesday edition, our pre-Thanksgiving show. Obviously, no show tomorrow because of Thanksgiving, and I'm not going to do a show on Friday because it's a half day, and I don't usually trade on half days. So cheers, everybody. Hope you had a good trading day, even though it wasn't the most exciting one out there. Still, lots to talk about for today's session. So cheers, everybody. Pierside from Huntington Beach. It's okay. Okay, bourbon. All right, let me dive into the topic du jour. Obviously, we'll run through our top markets. And then John's forwarded me articles which are giving me talk tracks for the show. Not just talk tracks, but just interesting conversation pieces. So we'll get to his question here in just a second. But let's start things off. I'll start from the top 7 and work our way down, or top 8. And going from that dollar index, still great follow-through from that overhead supply level we had mapped out. Looks fine at this point. Again, we are experiencing an uptrend on that dollar index, so this might just be a pullback. If it got any deeper than 99, or certainly below this yellow box at the bottom, then my belief on that dollar index would shift. Right now, I'm still bullish on that dollar. I do believe it's going to continue to move to the upside, even though, this is the tough part, even though we have Trump and Bessent all saying they want a weak dollar, dollar's got a little bit of a mind of its own here and could continue to go higher and higher and higher. All right, next, your 10-year bond down 0.15% on the day, continuing its slide, but slowing a little bit, right? You can see this is right at the end, slowed down just a smidge, although today it was actually up, had a real nice green candle going on, and then just kind of watched that one reverse. It was a pretty aggressive about face there for the 10-year, but all in all, for me, again, I don't really see this trend breaking yet. So I do expect it to come and challenge these lows we experienced back on, let's just say that this was the October 22nd or the October 17th low. Once we get below those lows, I think you'll see it hit that measuring object at 3.755. Steven says, all of a sudden, Bitcoin trying to make a comeback. Yeah, I mean, it's about time, honestly, given how much it's sold off. But we'll talk about that in just a second. Not even close to podium time, though. Our 6th place finisher was the S&P 500. For all of you who are bullish on the market, this is actually a very, very good sign, and mainly because of psychology. If you notice, we had that yellow box. The lower of those 2 yellow boxes was drawn on there a couple days ago. We were using that as a stall point for the dead cat bounce, that it would rally up in that, stall, and then sell off. Well, today, not only do we not stall, we just kept on rocking all day long, which basically, at least for me, tells me that we are looking at a stronger rally than anticipated. We'll probably see this challenge that higher zone for the S&P 500, which is between 6,840 and 6,900. Within the next few days, certainly by next week. Yeah, Steven says, I think it's back to all-time highs. It does feel that way, although it is a pretty aggressive bounce. I do feel that way as well. I think we're probably going to challenge all-time highs. It was really about that close below 65.40, and we didn't get it, right? And again, this goes back to just kind of following rules and establishing your game plan. Now, I could be totally wrong, but I do think we'll probably have a little bit of an issue next week at this overhead supply level that I just mentioned on the S&P 500. But after that, I think all-time highs are in play, and that's going to be at 69.53, so not that far away. Now, that was your worst from the broad market indexes. Russell 2000 slightly better, and it also closed above that little supply zone there. Now, this is not the best drawn supply zone. Depending on how you like to draw them, there's multiple choices that you would learn at Trading Academy. This actually is the worst choice for the supply zone. Mine would be a bit higher up there, but for now, we've broken above the upper side of that supply zone on the Russell 2000, which puts us above 2,487. We are currently 4 points above that, which means we will probably be seeking out these highs from back in October 27th in short order. So looking good from the S&P's perspective, from the Russell's perspective, and pray tell, what is the NASDAQ showing us? NASDAQ's got a little bit further to go. Now, I didn't draw out a supply zone here, which we would have been right near the top. We have technically not breached it yet if you're looking at the NASDAQ 100, but the zone that I find more interesting is this one up here, which is going to put us between 25,623 and 25,830. So a 200-point range. I know that seems like a lot, but it's actually only 1% when you're trading a $25,000 security. So I think that's where we're headed, probably back up to those highs in that yellow box there. Slightly weaker than the S&P in my opinion, but still looking okay, right? We did close just a hair below that line in the sand that I had drawn, but it just came screaming back up, as most of these markets have as well. Now it's podium time, and 3 unlikely candidates, all impacted by the dollar. Here is your crude oil chart, which really did nothing today, but it was up 0.01 or 1.04%. Must be the whiskey already getting to me on this Friday or Wednesday afternoon. But really the last 4 days have done nothing. You can see those last 4 candles on the crude oil chart. This is a daily time frame. Basically, red candle, green candle, red candle, green candle. And until we get a breakout of that range, I think that'll probably be the story of crude oil, which is bouncing back and forth. Of course, we have, peace talks with Russia and Ukraine, and Middle East is never out of the woods yet, but looking weaker here. Again, I keep pointing to that downtrend we have for crude oil, but bouncing between that overhead supply zone, overhead demand zone. There we go. Play the range, and we'll probably stay there for a foreseeable future. See, those last 4 candles on the Russell are crazy. You usually see it fall like that, not rally. Well, and that to me goes back to, the proverbial small caps are going to lead when people are optimistic. And that's, again, another very positive sign, because if people are, in fact, really this optimistic on small caps in such a short window of time, then that means that they're probably more optimistic on the longer term. So, yeah, this is definitely a catalyst and a positive factor for anybody looking at the broader picture here, and part of the reason why I think we'll be back at all-time highs on the S&P. But real strong there, looking great. Let's see, that was the bronze metal, was crude oil. Your silver metal goes to gold, which is coming back up towards a little bit of a pivot high, but still hasn't broken above it yet, right? We have, for all intents and purposes, what's called a pennant formation. Now, this isn't the most beautiful looking pennant, but you could draw a line across the tops, and you could also draw a line across those bottoms, and loosely you get this kind of pennant formation. Generally, when a pennant breaks out, it breaks out in the direction of the previous trend, which, as you can all see here, unless you listen to the podcast, that trend is clearly to the upside, certainly from August all the way through the middle of October, and then we kind of had a little bit of weakness. But that nice little rally up there tells me that we're probably going to break out to the upside here and challenge this peak, which goes back to November 13th. And that peak was $4,250 even on gold. So Steve says, is that a cup and handle on gold? No, not a cup and handle. So a cup and handle is usually a totally horizontal line. But you're looking at this saying, is this part here the cup and the handle? And you could argue, yeah, that's a cup and handle. But the way a cup and handle works is the left side of the chart here where my cursor is on, that shouldn't be above the blue line. It should have hit it, come back down, hit it again, come back down, hit it again. That'd be a cup and handle. If it hit it again, it'd be an ascending triangle. But no, this would not be a cup and handle for me. This is more of a pennant formation, because you can see the lines I've got drawn here. You're seeing really consolidation or compression of price, which is not out of the ordinary, right? You would expect there to be price compression after such a really strong move like this. I mean, gold had a colossal rally. For gold, it rallied on August 19th up to its high on October 20th, 31%. That's a pretty giant move. So yeah, you would expect there to be some consolidation. The good news is it didn't sell off dramatically. It feels like it's holding here by making higher lows. So that would lead me to believe the next move in gold would be to the upside. So there we go. Hope that helped. And in first place is Bitcoin, which, obviously has had the ugliest month of any asset class. Really, this thing has been absolutely just crushed for the month of November and October. It's been 2 really, really ugly months, but 3.34% gain today, closing above 90,000, which is a great thing for anybody who's bullish on it. I'm still not a believer that we're 100% out of the woods yet. I still think that you could see more downside movement here on Bitcoin going forward, but it is nice to see a little bit of a rally. If we do see it, where might that go? Right? That's the big question. Where do we go from here? Well, you do have a little bit of a supply zone between 92,175 and 93,690. And then really the big number for me is getting way back up here to about 107 and change. 105 up to 108. Other than that, I would just kind of hold off for right now until it proves it can actually break above this 94,000 level, and then I'd leave it alone. Hello, beloved Smiley. So far, higher lows on the weekly. So if we continue and look at the weekly on that bad boy, it is still holding its trend, right, John? I mean, and that's kind of why I have this 74,400 targeted, because that would really be a significant break of a major pivot. Now, the 99,000 was a major pivot as well, but actually 107 was your first kind of major pivot break, the 99. But yeah, it's not looking good, but at least on the weekly, we're still there. Now, let's quickly, because we are on the topic and we only have one trading day left for the month, and I will not be doing a show tomorrow or Friday. I really quickly want to look at these from a monthly basis to kind of see what the picture looks like. This is Bitcoin, which is this massive red candle. And I guess, it's about time we have a massive red candle because we've had pretty much nothing but green candles for quite some time. A little bit of a retracement there, and that is your worst by far. Gold, continuing its streak. I mean, I can't tell the colors here. I think this is a red candle for the month of June, which is just barely down. But since January, looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months out of 11 of gains for gold. Fan-freaking-tastic for those of us who hold gold. Gold, keep on going, buddy. Looks just great. And this isn't done. Could close negative, but I doubt we'll see such a big drop on Thursday's session. Crude oil, on the other hand, looking pretty weak. And again, I keep saying that the trend is your friend till the bend at the end. And if you notice this chart, all the way back to 2022, weak price of oil. Now we're right now at 58.65. That low line that you see on your screen that I've got mapped out as kind of the beginning of a demand zone is $57.37. So we got just a little bit to go before we get back in that demand zone. But the trend looks pretty clear. Lower lows, lower highs. We'll see if we can get down below those lows in the next couple of weeks. But monthly is not looking great for crude oil. NASDAQ, on the other hand, is looking great, even though we've got a red candle for the month, right? We got a red candle because of some of the AI scares and people bad-mouthing AI and telling them that it's overbought and the bubble's bursting. And there might be some truth to that, which I'll talk about here in just a minute. But NASDAQ down for the month, not the best one. This is the first red month we're going to have for the NASDAQ since going all the way back to April. April was a green month. Everything since then has been green except the month of November. Russell 2000, similar picture, although what makes this one interesting is this gigantic bottoming tail on the candle for the month of November, which shows great resilience, great strength, and certainly when you see a monthly candle end like this, Steve Nissen would call it a bearish signal. I disagree completely. I think this is actually a very bullish signal. It means that the buyers came back in at the tail end of that month and slammed that thing higher. I think this is very bullish for the Russell if we close like this. We have a half a day left, so I'm pretty sure we will. S&P, similar picture, right? This is called a hanging man. A hanging man it looks just like a hammer, but it's the top of an uptrend, and this is the first time we will see a closing month negative for the S&P since May. From May on, it's been nothing but green ever since, and all of a sudden, we have this nice little red candle. Honestly, Steve Nissen says it's reversal. I think that this is a bullish candle just because, again, the buyers came back in and pushed it higher. Your 10-year yield continuing to fall. Good for markets, right? The more this falls, the better. We've got that measuring object still down there at 3.755 on it. We'll see if we get there. And finally, that dollar index. Dollar index is kind of the least clear one. It's just kind of choppy and not really showing any clear direction over the past 6 or 8 months. Everything else has great trends to it. This is definitely the weakest one. All right, let's see. What do we got here? Questions coming through. Dan says, oil has been falling since Russia went into Ukraine. Is it correlated? I think that certainly is correlated. You actually would think that price would have gotten higher. I think a lot of it has to do with the drill, baby, drill mantra and the U.S. basically removing restrictions, right? I think when you remove restrictions, you start to see more and more companies drilling, extracting oil comes cheaper, and we'll see if that continues on here because the deregulation part is the one that has me concerned with what does it do for the environment. Yes, I'm a bit of an environmentalist. I do believe the environment is really, 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 really important. But yeah, we've been really falling in crude oil since 2022, so we could point fingers at different administrations, but you would think that what's been going on with Russia and Ukraine would have been spiking crude oil, and certainly did have some spikes along the way, but all in all, I think that there's just more oil being taken out of the ground and less oil being consumed because of electricity and alternative energy sources. What else was in there? Question on oil is, when does OPEC start cutting production? They hate oil under 55. Yeah, and that will probably be, Steve, that's a great question, a great comment, because I agree with you. I think that if oil gets too low, they're going to be like, no, we don't need to produce or extract oil at below $55 a barrel. We'll just cut our production. Our oil will last us longer, and we'll get higher prices for it. So at some point in the near future, I think we'll probably see that happen. The trend in this is definitely weak, and it looks like we're going lower. But how low? Again, I strongly disagree with that we'll ever get back to a negative 40 print on crude oil again like we did in April of 2020. That was just unbelievable. But from historical norms, before that, right, before we had the COVID massive spike down there because of storage concerns, the lowest point you had was really this monthly candle going back to February of 2016. That put a low price on crude oil at $26.05. I don't think we'll get back there. I think the cost and inflation costs of extraction have gotten significantly higher. And from the numbers I'm hearing from the experts, it's anywhere between $45 and $65 to extract a barrel of oil. In my mind, that is why we will probably see this break down and then go ripping back up. If you're a believer in, a base cost of oil, extraction cost of oil, then you should certainly be looking for a buy point somewhere around that $50 mark. But right now, the trend is weaker. What else do I have here? What to do? Hello, happy Thanksgiving to you, Alex. Good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. I haven't talked to you in a long time. Hope hope everything went well with you and you're back on track. What else we got? Now, government shutdown anomaly on the S&P. Nah, I don't think that really did much. Just realized Coinbase uses TradingView as their platform. Mickey, every crypto firm, at least from the big four, Gemini, Kraken, Binance, and Coinbase, all use TradingView. Yeah, they've incorporated in. Pretty cool. Larry says, which is why I short most CL rallies this year. It's been very, very good to me this year. All right. And Larry, the thing that you got to be real careful for is at some point that's going to break. If it does happen, like Steve mentioned, where OPEC says, hey, we're going to cut production, then all of a sudden that thing is going to start to spike to the upside and that rally will not stop. So you got to make sure you change. First day using TradingView, man, finally coming up to the current society application, right? It's one of the most popular ones out there. Okay, let me go into this article here. This is one that was sent in, and of course, what time we got? I'm going to try to do this quickly because there's a lot here. John sent in an article yesterday, which I thought was really interesting for me to comment on, and here's another one, which is good. He says, here's another article about the 10 stocks you should own in the AI space. Do you agree? Why not? So first, we need to look at, who's issuing this statement. And this is from Dan Ives, who is one of the bigwigs over at the Wedbush Morgan, which is a pretty big firm, right? Wedbush is one of the gigantic analyst firms out there, and they've got a lot of clout. They've also been very heavy and bullish on AI. So right away, I know that there's a bias here. If you were to ask someone from Warren Buffett's camp and go to Berkshire Hathaway and say, hey, what are the 10 stocks that you should own today? Probably going to have maybe one or two AI stocks in there, right? So completely different perspectives depending on who you're talking to. Now, Wedbush, very, very heavy on the AI space and especially Dan Ives. So which 10 did he speak of? Well, let's start off at the top of the list here and go to Microsoft, MSFT. And I guess the question is, how long should we own it for, right? There needs to be some clarity on that. Is it to own for the next week, the next month, the next year, the next 5 years? I think that if you're a long-term player and you're holding a 401k or an IRA, I would absolutely agree with Dan on owning Microsoft long-term. Because when these tools come about, when we see different models being built out, Microsoft is going to have a play in that. Now, granted, they have a bad history of rolling out their own products, as the Zune and many other products they've released that have bombed. The Surface didn't do very well either. But Microsoft it's too entrenched, and it's going to start adapting these AI models, these AI technologies, and incorporating them into all their Office suites and Excel and PowerPoint, and you'll have an AI PowerPoint soon that'll you just talk to it and it'll make all your presentations for you. I think that gives them even more money in their coffer. So I agree. Number one on his list was Microsoft. Absolutely, I think that is without a doubt. Steven says own Microsoft forever. And it's about timing. You look at this chart right here, and if you're a value investor, it's not quite the all-time high, but at current prices, I'm just doing a rough assessment here, you're looking at a 12% discount on Microsoft. Great. And I think people are going to get hung up on the valuations and say, oh, the PE ratios are high. Again, this is looking longer term. One of the things that I've done with my cryptocurrency portfolio and also my class is when I'm looking at what to buy in the digital asset space in cryptocurrencies, I'm not thinking about tomorrow. I'm not thinking about next year. I'm thinking about 5 to 10 years down the road, because I made this mistake before with the dot-com bubble. I've told you guys this story. Like, I was just day trading Amazon recklessly trying to capture the spread. I didn't step back and say, what can Amazon do for the future? Maybe I should buy some and hold it for the next 4 or 5 or 10 years. I didn't do that, and I'm not making that mistake again. So I think you have two different industries right now, which is digital assets and cryptocurrency and AI, which have staying power that'll last for the rest of time as we go forward. So AI certainly is not going to go anywhere. Therefore, I think Microsoft should be number one on that list because they are just entrenched in the computer space. Most people using their software in one way or another. They'll be connected. Next on this list is Palantir, PLTR. I have the same argument here. This is, a government using Palantir, which predominantly initially it was government, but now Palantir is just doing custom systems for corporations. I think as AI grows, they'll become more entrenched in publicly traded companies and doing more services. I think they'll benefit greatly from AI. And as I told you, I've got a friend in the industry who just told me last year, he's like, just buy it. Just buy Palantir. Just own it long term. Forget the high PE ratio. In the long haul, you'll do fine. I'm like, oh man, it's so tough to just throw caution to the wind on an assessment like that and say, I'm just going to buy it. You do. What do we got from Steve? At this point, I'm waiting for a major pullback before I buy anything else for long term. And that's fine, right? I think, your perspective is that we're going to have a pullback, a correction, which could very well happen. I mean, there's a lot of arguments that I could make to show a pullback or correction happening. The rally we had the past couple of days makes me feel a little bit better, right? Makes me feel a little bit more confident about that this is not just a dead cat bounce. This might actually be a rally that's going to take us back up to all-time highs. And if that happens, may miss that pullback. All right, so that was number 2, Palantir. I agree, that should be in your portfolio. This goes without saying. NVIDIA, I mean, come on. I talked about this yesterday with the Google story and how Google's got these TPU chips and everyone's like freaking out about it. Not a worry. These are the ones that are powering everything. So no question, NVIDIA needs to be on that list. It's just a question of when, right? Buying points. If you look from its all-time high, which is October 29th, to where we are right now, you're looking at a 14% discount. Well, it was a 20% discount just a couple days ago. So finding the right time for NVIDIA to add to your portfolio, great. Let me see. I'm just make sure I get the questions here. No one else can do what Palantir can do at this point, just like Tesla. They are so far ahead of everyone else. I agree with you at this point from what I know about them, right? I'm not an expert on Palantir, but I do know that they are entrenched. You see that letter that NVIDIA sent after everyone was praised? No, I did not see that one. Did not see that one. This one is probably the most iffy on this list for me, but AMD. So AMD also right now trading at a steep discount from its all-time high on October 29th to where we are right now. It's down still 20%. 20% discount for AMD. The reason I think AMD is good and should be on this list is they're probably the most aggressive right now at trying to emulate or create a product that competes directly with NVIDIA. They do not have the software ecosystem that NVIDIA does. They have their own proprietary Crude platform, so no one's going to compete on that space. But AMD could start building up products and services and catch a lot of the droppings, if you will, or drippings from NVIDIA. I mentioned I have a friend that works there, and NVIDIA is literally turning away people with less than $1 billion order. Well, where are those people going to go? AMD could be a big benefactor there, or beneficiary there. So I think AMD definitely has a place in there. And as we just came down right to the origin of this gap and started to bounce. So it's actually a pretty good spot. That's pretty funny. All this is basically saying, that's nice and congrats on the publicity, but we are the leaders. Watch this. Yeah. It's funny because yesterday when we had that NVIDIA drop, I was thinking to myself, man, this could just be a nice time to buy some NVIDIA, but I didn't. I was just too busy with other things. So those are your first 4: Microsoft, Palantir, NVIDIA, AMD. I think all of those should be long-term holds. Absolutely. Next. And actually, I think this one should be higher on the list. I'll rearrange these. I'm reading them in the order that they were given to me. But Tesla. Look, Tesla, and again, if you believe that Tesla is a car company, you need to wake up. You need to change your perspective because this is a technology company. They have massive AI, and they're keeping it all in-house. They've got a whole team of engineers that are actually building their own proprietary chips for Tesla. They've got one of the largest AI fleets in the world of vehicles. Right? Teslas are all using AI. They're collecting information off of every car out there. They have so much information that nobody else has that extensive data. And you could argue that when you look at something like Claude or OpenAI, that yes, those companies all have the same information. They're scouring the web for all this data and they got it all great. Tesla has information that nobody else has. and that is driving data. Now, other companies do have their own, but nowhere near the amount that Tesla has. Tesla is incredible there, and I think they're going to continue to build out more and more AI services. Of course, you got the robo-taxi and a whole bunch of other stuff. I think Tesla is going to just absolutely boom. It would not surprise me to see Tesla over like $800 by the end of next year. And if everyone wants to take that wager, I'd be happy to join. I'll take that wager that Tesla will be $800 by December of 2026. Seems crazy. They've doubled their price by then, but man, when they start rolling out these different products, absolutely. So I am definitely in the camp of Tesla. Apple, I can't buy it, so it can't be on my list, but you look at this price chart, Apple has shown no weakness here. Apple's been looking amazing, and let's be honest, anything that comes out with AI, Apple is going to integrate it into their products. So they will be a user of everybody's services. The iPhone is just too entrenched. I hate Apple. I really dislike Apple as a company, but look, I've got an Apple phone, I've got my Apple Watch on here. Unfortunately, it is what it is. I'm a victim of Apple. I don't have an Apple PC or computer. I don't use those, but the phone, look, until I can wean myself away from all the integrated products and services, Apple's going to continue to have my phone and my watch business. But going forward, do I think that Apple will be benefited by AI? Absolutely. And I would certainly put it lower on my list. It wouldn't be in the top, the top 5, but I certainly think that that Apple will do well with the AI surge that's going on. All right, what do we got here? Big Ab, yeah, 800 by December of next year. Yeah, that's a tough one. Let's see. You can't get a Tesla robo-taxi in Austin, Texas. The demand is overwhelming. Yeah, I think that Elon Musk tweeted out something today that said that their fleet's going to double next month. They're doubling their fleet in a month. That's pretty awesome. And if they can continue to do that pretty soon, the taxi business can be out of business down there. The Ubers and Lyfts are going to be suffering massively. Steven, I love it. He says, I own 0 Apple products, bought the stock in 2015 and still own it. You got to help yourself out, my friend. You got to buy some Apple products. You got to be a supporter. You need to cheerlead your team, right? Well, if you bought it in 2015, you're doing pretty darn good, my friend. Pretty good. Just wait till he gets into solar, like he said. Well, he was in solar, right? He had Solar City, which was his cousin. I think his cousin had that company, but that didn't work out so well. Let's see. What else was on our list? So we've got Meta. Meta's next up. So we go from Apple to Meta. I think that Meta will probably do fine. Again, I think this is one of the big evil companies on the planet. I really dislike Meta. I think that, this is me being jaded and opinionated, but I really do think that these algorithms for AI and for Meta and Instagram and Google Shorts are causing radicalization of people. They're polarizing people, and it's kind of like when you watch the evening news, right? If you had an evening news where it's like, oh, today our headline news is a cat got stuck in a tree and we're going to watch firemen rescue the cat. And in another news, we have little Timmy with a lemonade stand and he's raising money for his baseball camp. And those two stories, you're not going to click on it. No one cares. But now, little Timmy got impaled by a fence as a car crashed into the fence and impaled Timmy. We're going live to the rescue event, and people drawn to misery, torture, suffering. They're drawn to political alienation and polarization. So all of a sudden, if you click on an ad that says, Trump is great or Trump's an idiot, you're now going to get further in that algorithm that's going to polarize you. And I hate it. I've lost friends because they become so polarized because of AI. And 10 years ago, they were not. It just drives me nuts. So I hate Meta. I dislike what they do. I wish there were rules in place. But anyway, get off my soapbox. Do I think that Meta will do well? Yeah, sure. Meta is, again, investing heavy in AI. And I think that once they get clear on how they can monetize it, I think Meta will do fine. Meta would be lower on my list. Probably be like the 8, 9, 10 area. Google. Let's go to GOOG. Absolutely. Now, I'm not buying it now. There's no way I would buy at these all-time highs like this, but I think Google absolutely needs to be in your portfolio. Google, as I talked about it on yesterday's show, coming out with their TPU chips, well, they've had them for a while, but direct competition with NVIDIA, and slowly what they'll try to do is migrate their customers over to their TPU versus the Blackwell NVIDIA chips, which will save them a lot of money, and ultimately that might hurt NVIDIA a little bit, But Google's a pretty heavy player in that AI space. Their Gemini model is great. Would not surprise me to see Alphabet continue to do well. They've monetized this, and again, a lot of paid search I think is going to go away. You think about it. Obviously, I work for a company called Trading Academy, and in order to get people to view our marketing and our ads, they pay money to be higher up in the search ranking. So when someone searches for a trading stock class or stock trading class, there's payment to be up on that list. But in the future, no one's going to search. You're going to go to your AI agent, like I showed you guys with ChatGPT before. I'll go to ChatGPT and say, what's a good trading school to go to? And it will filter through everything that's on the web and automatically come back with a result for me. Now, maybe down the road, people will be paying AI to influence that decision. But for now, I think Google is... Steven says, I think Google is first or second behind NVIDIA, not that far behind in my opinion. I agree. For the long-term hold, because of the price, and again, I'm factoring in price into this too, Steve, I would probably put Google like 4 or 5, like mid-pack, because I think it's gotten a little too ahead of itself. I think you're going to see a pullback, and then it's a good buy point. This rally we've seen is just incredible for Google. All right, next on my list before I make this a 1-hour show, CrowdStrike. CRWD. So this is cybersecurity. And I think that businesses, this is a critical piece of AI business infrastructure going forward. So I do think CrowdStrike should be on this list. Now, is it the number one piece? Should it be in the top 5? No, probably the bottom. But still, I totally agree with Dan on this one. You need to have a very security-focused company now if you're dealing with AI, not just for external threats, but internal threats and actually managing AI as well. So yeah, CrowdStrike, great. And then he has Palo Alto Networks on here, which is PANW, P-A-N-W. Palo Alto Networks, again, is security, but I don't know. I'm not as big of a fan, and I guess I just don't know the model of Palo Alto Networks well enough, so I have to claim a little bit of an ignorance there. So this is the only one that I would say I'm not 100% sure on whether I would have it in my portfolio or not. But to go to John's initial question, which was, do you agree with these? If not, why? I absolutely agree with that list. I think that Microsoft, and if I have to do number one for me is going to be Tesla. It just from pure profit potential growth. I'm going to go Tesla. I'm going to go NVIDIA. Maybe I'll redo. Let me just do the list here. I'll do it in PowerPoint so you guys can see it over here. So give me just a sec as I bring this up. We'll do a new slide, and I will put that right here. So if I take Dan's list and I put it in Merlin's format, which would be just what I perceive to be the value play here. 2 seconds. Trying to do multiple things here at once. Okay. So number one, let's just label these with bullet points. Bam, we got Microsoft. So I put Microsoft number 1. I put NVIDIA number 2. I would put Palantir number 3. Microsoft number 4. I would put AMD. And the reason I put AMD here is I just think AMD is going to get a lot of business from this. So I'll put AMD number 5. And let's see. This is where it gets tricky. I think Google. And again, Google. The only reason I have Google so low is because of where it's at price-wise. I think Google's price should come down a little bit here. Bear with me. I'll clean all this up in just a second. I've got Google. I've got Apple. I've got CrowdStrike. I'm going to do, let's see, Meta. And that's just because I just like Meta. And then I'll do PANW. So, yes, there's your 10. Yes, I agree with Dan. My order of significance is going to be different here. Oh, did I put Microsoft twice? Oh, thank you. Yep. I'm missing something. What did I miss? Good call. It's so nice. I picked it twice. Sorry. This is the beauty of doing things live. I got a little bit ahead of myself. All right. So I got Microsoft, NVIDIA, Palantir. Let's get AMD up there higher because I do like AMD. Oh, yeah. That's why. Because I put Tesla as number 1. So there we go. That would be my 10. And again, you don't have to agree with me. I think that you guys already did it. I should have watched the chat. We all have OCD is making my numbers flip. It's because it's central. It's center. Let me fix that for you. I'm gonna help out. I'm a team player here. I'm a total team player for you, Mamon. We will go over here and I will do a right justify or left justify. There we go. How's that? Better? Not helping you out, my friend? So we'll call this the Dan Ives Top 10 MR Edition. So that's how I would rank them. Again, I'm sure you all would have different ranking preferences. You forgot Amazon in place. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, hey, Oliver, that's not a bad idea. Because I don't know about Palo Alto Networks that well, again, I can't make a comment on it if I don't know about it. And I know the company, I just don't follow them closely. Is Amazon really that major AI play? I guess you could go in there and give them cloud storage and AI. And I think if they integrate AI into shopping, then I would dump Palo Alto Networks. So, yeah, thank you. That's a good call, Oliver. I would modify that, and I would put Amazon in there. Yeah, I like that. What do we got here? I would have TSM and Amazon on there. Yeah, Amazon for sure. TSM, it's tough. If you have TSM on here, you've got to bump something. Michael G says Avgo, so get Broadcom on there. These are all great. Both of those are great. Are you drinking the brew that is true? I'm drinking whiskey, which is frisky. But if you look at this top 10 list here, these are all, many are extremely mature companies like Microsoft and Google and Apple. They've been around forever. Many are somewhat new that have a lot of potential, which would be like CrowdStrike or Palantir. It's tough. It's real tough to say. And I don't have a problem with Broadcom, especially, AVGO or TSM. The question is, if you're doing a top 10, something's got to go. And I don't know what I would bump from this. I can't bump Meta. Meta just has, I think, way too much upside potential. CrowdStrike is probably the least known one here by most people, but CrowdStrike is running security for some major names, and I see that becoming more and more critical going forward. Amazon, we know they're spending a boatload of money on AI. We know that they are going to integrate all those services into what they already do, as well as do AWS. And, AWS is going to be using a lot of NVIDIA chips. So we all know NVIDIA's got to stay there, right? NVIDIA's got to stay. There's no one here going to argue that one. No one, I think, is going to argue Google. Changing the top 12. I can't. That's the beauty of this, Oliver. That's the beauty of it, is you've got 10. You can't fudge it, and I know that there's other ones we'd want to put in here. And I agree with you. If Taiwan Semiconductor is so critical to all these companies, therefore it should be on the list, right? It's not domestic. It's not a U.S.-based company. I think that might be part of the reason that they don't have it on there. Maybe Dan Ives is going for domestic companies, domestic production. These companies are what percentage of the market? Oh, huge, Dan. I don't know off the top of my head, but if I go to the S&P 500 component weightings, one second here. Let me just bring this up. It's a great question, Dan. Sorry, I have to type and talk, and it doesn't work very well. Well, my brain's slow. So if you go and look at the S&P 500 and look at the companies on it, and here we go. Notice I've got almost all those on here. NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google. Broadcom is actually much higher up. You got Meta, Tesla. I mean, just those companies. We take out the Broadcom, you're looking at 3, I'm rounding up here, but 3, 5, we got 8, we've got 11, we've got 15, we've got 21, we've got 20, call it 28, and then you add another 7 on there. That's 35% of the total market is just in a few of these names. And that doesn't include Palantir, that doesn't include CrowdStrike, that doesn't include Meta. No, Meta's on there. But yeah, 35%. And there's more than that, Dan. If you add in Palantir and AMD and others, this market cap gets significantly higher. So these are the heavy hitters. This is the reason why the market has been surging. But to Dan's point, and I agree with him, I've said this before, I don't think that the AI revolution is done. I think that we're in its infancy. I think that there is massive discovery to happen. In that discovery process, we talked, let's say the next 5 years, what's going to happen? I don't know. I do think we're going to see a consolidation in the industry. I do think that we'll see spending on AI and chips slow down at some point. But I don't know when that's going to be, which means that NVIDIA and TSM are going to do well for quite some time. When these businesses monetize AI, do their profits surge, right? John says massive spending yet to come. I mean, they've already spent massively, and the question is, how much more are they going to spend? Steven says remove AMD with replace it with TSM. I would agree with that. I could see doing that one. I do think there's a lot of upside potential for AMD. I really do. I don't think, if we look at the charts of TSM and AMD, let's go bring up TSM. Yeah, TSM just exploding the last few years. Nice pullback on that one, but let's look at AMD in the similar. Yeah, not as good. Yeah, definitely. I don't know. That's a tough one there. Like I would agree with Oliver. If I would add it, I'd make 12. But in this case, in this case, we can't. We have to have 10. Consolidation like Iren being purchased by Microsoft. That is a consolidation, is it not? Actually, that's a whole different industry switch, because Iren was a miner and now all of a sudden it's an AI farm. That's a big switch. Consolidation, as in some of these companies will be bought, purchased, or merged, or some of the technologies will phase out, right? Who knows if CrowdStrike, all of a sudden there's new AI agents and people don't even need CrowdStrike anymore. I'm just throwing out hypotheticals here. So one thing that that happened in the .com era was a lot of those .com companies were prominent in 98, 99, 2000 hits, and they kind of washed out a little bit, and a lot didn't recover, even though they were great companies back in 98, 99. If we do get a similar washout in AI, and let's say all of a sudden, we see NVIDIA tank and it drops 20% because of demand, or 30% or more, what other companies are impacted by that? What sort of washout happens? I still think that in the long haul, we're going to have big upside movements it's not Scott McCormick, big upside movements in AI. It's just which ones. And so I think Dan's list here is pretty good. I actually like the changes that you guys are making. Do we swap out TSM with AMD? Certainly a very logical choice, because TSM is providing chips to Apple, to Google, to NVIDIA, to Microsoft, to Amazon, right? It's the backbone that's providing everybody. NVIDIA is just taking those chips and making them better. So let's do that. Let's make that change. I like it. This is why we have a democracy. I'm going to take AMD out. Sorry, AMD. TSM is now, TSM. Replaced him in there. So, great article. It was interesting to read it. I like the mindset. And John, thank you for sending that one in. You had a whole different discussion track to today's show. Let's see. If the S&P 500 can have 503 stocks, you can add TSM to the list and call it the top 10. You got to be so practical, Les. You got to be so practical. I get it. That was good. Again, Seawell says AMD gains are almost all in the last 2 months. I think it comes back to earth. 150 would be a good buy, in my opinion. All right. TSM probably more integrated, giving it more of a foothold in the broader market. So there we go. And that was it for me. I really only had the one trade open today. As you guys know, I'm still in Amazon, so I didn't make any new trades. I've been trying to build out the newsletter for Trading Academy, which hopefully we'll get that released on Monday. I'm a little bit behind. So I was down just a hair today. We're down 0.22%, but at one point today, we were looking pretty good on Amazon. We were up at 231. Again, I have the 235 calls expiring on Friday, and I think I'll do fine there. I may actually resell those calls at a higher strike price on Friday. Ideally, we get a nice rally on Friday up to about 234.99, and I can resell, let's say, the 245s or 250s, and see if this thing actually has some legs. Remember, we did break above some key levels on the NASDAQ or the S&P as well. If we can get up and break and run, you might actually see Amazon at back of that 250 mark, and that would be pretty good given the share size that I have on it, plus the covered calls against it generates some nice premium. All right, we are at 44 after. I have a ton of things I got to do for my Thanksgiving, so I'm going to try to wrap this one up here. Let's look at real quick at the economic data. I was surprised by this. The durable goods orders looked really good. The durable goods orders went from 3% to 0.5%, but I know I said real good, but that was in line with expectations. It's the core durable goods. And if you ever wonder what core means, you can just click on here to describe. Typically, when you have core, it excludes transportation, right? So you're taking out airplanes and cars, just so you know what this piece is measuring. And you look at that number, that's pretty good. We went from 0.3, expectations were we were going to be at 0.2. So they thought it was going to go down. We actually went up to 0.6. So that's really good data coming out there. You had Chicago PMI numbers, which are still above zero, but not great. Crude oil inventories, we had a much higher number, which means we have more inventory of crude oil than expected. That should help prices drop. And again, we were right near those lows on crude oil. Now for Thursday, if you're trading the U.S. markets, you got nothing. Markets are closed. You have a half day on Friday, but there is no economic data coming out for U.S. So boo-hoo, it's a quiet one. I would encourage all of you to not trade on Friday. Don't do it. I hate half days. They're light. You don't get the benefit of time if you're a day trader. You have usually most people are recovering from their tryptophan hangover because they just sitting there eating a lot of turkey. I'm cooking a 20-pound bird. I was going to cook 2 turkeys, but I'm cooking a 20-pound bird. I got a 7-pound prime rib and green bean casseroles and all kinds of dishes. So it should be a good time for Thanksgiving with family and friends. I hope that all of you have safe travels. I know it's going to be chaotic if you are traveling. I will travel to my kitchen. That's pretty much the only place I'm going. So hope you guys all have a fantastic Thanksgiving with your family and friends. Much love to you and all your support over the years. I look forward to rekindling our conversations on December 1st. I will run through the month of November's final numbers here. We'll do a little run through there. And then, of course, if you have anything you want to discuss, send it on in at tradermerlin@gmail.com. But from myself to you, happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and I will see you guys in December. Take care. I know, Alex. I'm waiting for the video to end. For some reason, there's a super delay here, but have a great Thanksgiving, my friend.